He always believed he was living by the rules: a stable marriage, a successful career, a peaceful future. Everything collapsed after a single dinner. One casually spoken sentence turned his reality into an emotional minefield. What followed were unspoken truths, unfamiliar scents on pillows, long nights alone, and silences that echoed too loudly. He gave in because he believed in love. But love had already slipped through his fingers, replaced by an experiment he was never prepared for. And then she appeared. A woman no one was supposed to know about, whose name had no place outside of business correspondence. A chance encounter, or a carefully orchestrated revenge? When the old rules no longer apply, there's only one thing left: to create your own. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watch this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. I'm a 34-year-old man, married to my 32-year-old wife, and we've shared 8 years together. Our journey started back in college, where we were both studying for business degrees. After dating for 3 years, we tied the knot and created what I believed was a stable and happy life. For the past 4 years, my wife has been employed at a prestigious marketing firm. Her boss, a 36-year-old woman, founded the agency herself and built it into a powerhouse. She's striking, highly successful, and, according to my wife, an imposing figure at work. Over the years, I had encountered her at several professional events. She was always courteous, but kept a certain distance. I assumed she was simply maintaining professionalism. Now, I'm not so sure. Roughly 6 months ago, my wife's behavior started to change. She became emotionally remote, constantly on her phone, staying late at work, and pulling away from our relationship. When I finally confronted her, worried she might be having an affair, she denied cheating, but instead dropped a bombshell I hadn't anticipated. One evening after dinner, she looked me in the eyes and said, "I think we should explore the idea of an open marriage. We're young, and it feels like we're missing out on experiences. Don't you want more excitement in life?" I was completely taken aback. We had never so much as hinted at this idea before. As far as I was concerned, our relationship was fulfilling and our life together, steady and happy. When I pushed her for more explanation, she spoke vaguely about wanting personal growth and exploring different relationship dynamics. After weeks of tense discussions, emotional blowouts, and even some sessions with a couples therapist, I reluctantly agreed. She insisted that opening our marriage would ultimately strengthen our bond, and she assured me it would remain strictly physical. We laid down clear rules: no involvement with close friends, full honesty about any encounters, and the right for either of us to veto potential partners. "This will actually build more trust between us," she said. "You'll see." Truthfully, I didn't have any burning desire to date anyone else. I loved my wife and had been completely satisfied with the life we had. Yet, she jumped into this new arrangement head first, signing up for dating apps almost immediately. It didn't seem spontaneous at all, more like something she had been planning for a while. Soon she was often out late, coming home smelling like alcohol and strange cologne, offering only vague summaries of her evenings. Anytime I pressed for details, she'd remind me, "Remember, no jealousy. It's just physical. Don't turn it into something it's not." I felt devastated. My self-esteem plummeted as I wrestled with mental images of her with other men. But I had agreed to this, and now I was trapped in it. After a month of lonely evenings at home while she embraced her new life, I finally decided maybe I should try dating as well. That's when something unexpected happened. A message appeared in my LinkedIn inbox. It was from my wife's boss, inviting me to grab coffee and discuss a potential collaboration. Given that my career is in event planning, not marketing, I found the message both surprising and intriguing. Curious, I agreed to meet. As soon as we sat down, it became obvious there was no professional project to discuss. Instead, her boss, let's call her Violet, confessed that she had always found me attractive, but had kept her distance out of respect for my marriage. However, now she knew from my wife that we were in an open relationship. "I hope this isn't inappropriate," Violet said, "but I've been wanting to ask you out ever since that first holiday party. Now that you're both seeing other people, I thought I'd finally take my shot." I was stunned, not just because Violet was interested, but because my wife had apparently shared private details of our marriage with her boss. It felt like a serious betrayal of trust. Yet Violet was charismatic, intelligent, and, after the initial awkwardness faded, surprisingly easy to talk to. We ended up chatting for hours, and I genuinely enjoyed myself. She was direct about her feelings, but also respectful of the situation. After giving it serious thought, I figured, why shouldn't I have a little happiness too? If my wife was taking full advantage of our new arrangement, then so could I. Violet and I started dating, and honestly, it surpassed anything I had imagined. She was attentive, passionate, and genuinely interested in me, not just on a physical level, but emotionally and intellectually as well. We bonded over shared passions for travel, fine dining, and similar goals for the future. I hadn't expected to form such a deep connection. But then, everything blew up. One night after a date, Violet dropped me off at home. As fate would have it, my wife pulled up at the exact same moment and saw us kissing in Violet's high-end car. Her face morphed from shock to pure rage in an instant. Without saying a word, she stormed into the house. I braced myself for what I knew was coming. The second I stepped inside, she exploded. "You're dating my boss?" she screamed. "Out of everyone, you had to pick her?" I stayed calm and reminded her that this situation was the result of her idea, the open marriage she had pushed so hard for, and pointed out that she had been seeing other men for months. "It's completely different," she shouted. "She's my boss! This is humiliating! Everyone at work is going to find out!" I stood my ground and said, "You're the one who wanted this. You're the one who's been staying out all night. You're the one who told your boss about our private arrangement. How is any of this my fault?" It was during that conversation that my wife revealed something I had never known before. Apparently, Violet had been quietly competing with her for years, often favoring the advancement of others while sidelining my wife despite her hard work. My wife believed that Violet had only started dating me to spite her, aiming to humiliate her in the process. "She's using you to get back at me," my wife insisted. "She's always been jealous of what I have." I found her claim ridiculous and told her so. "Maybe she actually likes me?" I countered. But my wife was adamant. She insisted I break things off with Violet immediately, invoking the veto rule we'd agreed on. I refused. The veto rule had been created to protect us in case a new relationship made either of us feel genuinely unsafe or endangered, not to serve as a means of controlling each other's relationships. As the weeks went by, while my bond with Violet grew deeper, the cracks in my marriage widened. My wife became either coldly silent or explosively confrontational. She accused me of betrayal, saying I had entangled myself with someone in her professional circle, someone with the power to affect her career. And soon, the situation escalated. My wife went to Violet's brother, who was also an employee at the same company, and falsely claimed I was a habitual cheater pursuing Violet only for her money. He confronted Violet, but, fortunately, she saw through the lies. When that tactic failed, my wife took things even further, spreading damaging gossip at work, suggesting Violet was abusing her authority by getting involved with a subordinate's spouse, insinuating it was sexual harassment. Her plan backfired spectacularly when Violet addressed the rumors directly in a formal meeting, publicly acknowledging our relationship and stepping away from any professional decisions related to my wife's career. The final collapse happened one evening while Violet and I were having dinner at a restaurant. My wife burst in, threw a glass of wine at Violet, and unleashed a torrent of vulgar insults before security removed her. Despite the humiliating scene, Violet stayed impressively poised, though it was clear the incident shook her deeply. Later that night, when I returned home briefly to collect some essentials before staying elsewhere, I found my wife waiting. She was calmer, but crying uncontrollably. Between sobs, she confessed, "I made a huge mistake." She begged me to end the open marriage and go back to how things used to be. "I'll do anything," she pleaded. I needed to ask the question that had haunted me all along. Why did you really suggest an open marriage? After a long, painful pause, she admitted she had already fallen for a coworker and had slept with him before even proposing the idea to me. She wanted to pursue her affair without carrying the guilt of cheating, but things had ended disastrously. "He was just using me for intimacy and bragging about it in front of his friends," she said bitterly. "I ruined our marriage for nothing." A cold, unfamiliar anger settled in me. It became crystal clear. The open marriage idea had been nothing but a ploy, a way for her to retroactively justify her betrayal. She hadn't been seeking mutual exploration or deeper honesty. She had been trying to cover up what she'd already done. "And now you're upset because I found someone who actually values me?" I asked coldly. In a moment of brutal vulnerability, she whispered, "I didn't think you'd find anyone." That simple admission revealed everything. She had seen me as the safe, reliable fallback, never believing anyone else would want me. She never imagined I'd meet someone like Violet, someone more accomplished, more self-assured, and quite frankly, more desirable than she was. In that moment, I knew without a doubt that our marriage was beyond saving. I told her I wanted a divorce and left to stay with my brother while I planned my next steps. But she wouldn't let it end quietly. She flooded my phone with messages, swinging wildly between heartfelt apologies, bitter accusations, and desperate pleas for reconciliation. Then she dragged others into the chaos. She called my parents, claiming I was having a midlife crisis and being manipulated by a wealthy woman. My mother was initially worried until I explained the full story. Her disappointment was directed entirely at my wife, a woman she had treated like her own daughter for years. Still not satisfied, my wife began contacting our mutual friends, twisting the narrative to make herself appear the victim of my supposed betrayal, conveniently leaving out her own infidelity and her push for an open marriage. Some friends believed her version of events, but those who truly knew us saw right through the lies. Her most vindictive move was reaching out to Violet's family, even her elderly parents, attempting to paint me as a gold digger preying on their daughter. Violet was furious, but handled the situation with her usual grace, calmly explaining the reality to her family. She then invited me to stay with her for a while, and I accepted. Living with Violet, even temporarily, threw into stark contrast the difference between my past and my present. Our relationship was built on mutual respect, honesty, and real affection, not manipulation and deceit. Meanwhile, at work, my wife's behavior continued to deteriorate. She missed important deadlines, lashed out at colleagues, and made barely concealed jabs at Violet during meetings. After repeated warnings, Violet, carefully adhering to company policy, arranged for HR to place my wife on a performance improvement plan to ensure impartiality. Rather than improve, my wife retaliated by accusing the company of harassment and threatening to sue. The company's legal team, fully informed about the personal circumstances, meticulously documented evidence and gathered co-worker testimonies that cast serious doubt on my wife's claims. When her legal efforts unraveled, she ultimately chose to resign, blaming Violet and me for the downfall of her professional life. Throughout the divorce proceedings, my wife resorted to numerous tactics designed either to delay the outcome or extract additional concessions from me. She fabricated stories about our shared assets, sought to paint my relationship with Violet as an act of betrayal, despite the fact we had agreed to an open marriage, and even alleged she had suffered emotional harm. Thankfully, I had kept careful records, including evidence of our mutual agreement to pursue an open marriage and her own written admissions of prior infidelity that predated it. Acting on my attorney's advice, I put forward a fair settlement proposal in hopes of avoiding a prolonged court struggle. However, my wife initially refused the offer, instead demanding a vastly unequal share of the marital assets, despite having contributed far less financially during our time together. It was Violet who helped me see the situation clearly. She doesn't just want equity, she wants to see you suffer, she pointed out. Offer her a bit more than necessary, but give her a strict deadline. Appeal to her greed while taking away her ability to keep dragging this out. Taking Violet's advice to heart, I proposed a slightly more generous offer paired with a non-negotiable expiration date. Faced with the reality of an expensive court battle she could no longer finance due to her job loss, my wife reluctantly accepted the terms. Exactly 6 months after I had moved out, the divorce was finalized. During that transitional time, my relationship with Violet deepened. Once the paperwork was complete, we moved in together, and for the first time in my life, I felt what it meant to have a partner who genuinely uplifted and supported me. Violet not only championed my professional goals, but also introduced me to her circle of friends who welcomed me warmly and without hesitation. She demonstrated that a relationship could empower rather than exhaust you. Some months after the divorce, I happened to run into my ex-wife's sister at a local grocery store. She seemed hesitant, but eventually came over to speak to me. "I know what really happened," she said quietly. "One night, after she'd had a few drinks, my sister told me everything. According to her sister, my wife had never believed I would actually find someone else, especially someone like Violet. Her plan had been that I would fail at dating, grow lonely, and agree to close the marriage again on her terms once she had finished exploring other options. Her sister also revealed that my wife had harbored envy toward Violet long before she became a visible part of our lives. Violet embodied everything my wife longed for: success, admiration, influence, and social standing. What hurt her wasn't any lingering affection for me, but rather the fact that once again, Violet possessed something she desperately desired. "She's relocating next month," her sister added. "She says there are just too many painful reminders here. I thought you should know." As I listened, a complex mix of emotions surged through me. Relief that she would soon be out of my orbit, regret over the years wasted with someone who had never truly valued me, and immense gratitude for the series of unexpected events that had led me to Violet. Today, Violet and I are engaged. We're planning a small, intimate wedding with only our closest friends and family, dedicating ourselves to building a future together instead of dwelling on old wounds. Violet's business continues to flourish, and with her encouragement, I have successfully launched my own event planning company. From what I've heard through mutual contacts, my ex-wife has started seeing someone new in her new city. I genuinely hope she's found some measure of happiness and has taken important lessons from our shared past. Sometimes the excitement you chase blinds you to the stability you already have, and sometimes life's greatest gifts come disguised as calamities. Looking back, I can't ignore the irony that it was my wife's idea to open our marriage that ultimately brought about its end, and led me to the most profound relationship of my life. If there's any lesson to be taken from all this, it's a simple but powerful one. Be cautious about what you wish for. You just might get it, but not in the way you expect. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you liked this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.